What's going on, guys? Welcome back to Into the Lion's Den. I am here today, kind of taking the host spot this time. And I am here with our host, Christian Griffith, old Redbeard over there.
Real original.
Real original? Oh, okay. Let's think here. I got nothing.
Oh, that's great.
I mean, I could think of lots, but I won't. But
How
today
do you
we're
really feel about me, JD?
How do I really feel about Christian? He's lovely.
You heard it.
You heard it here. But today we're going to go through just a few ideas that we've had that didn't either end up turning into podcast ideas or were superseded by another episode. So we're just going to kind of do a quick, short intro into some of these and see if there's any engagement of if you guys would like to see us expand on any of these topics. And, we're going to jump around a little bit. This one's going to be more similar to last week, where it's going to be more conversational, where we're going to jump around a little bit. But we just thought that some of these episodes that didn't end up becoming full episodes over the course of the last year might be a fun way to introduce them and see where we landed with some of them.
Short form roulette. Let's go. Spin that wheel, buddy.
Spin that wheel.
That would be a good idea.
That would have been.
Put your money on double zero.
I might be able to do an animation.
So, okay, we're going to go with this one. Reinvent the wheel. Business ideas we wish existed. So has there ever been anything that, when we're talking about entrepreneurs of, I don't know where to start, or, is there something that in your daily life you're like, man, I wish that thing existed? I know that there's been times we've said it of, this would make our life so much easier. Of, maybe not giving away any of the stuff that we're working on, but maybe some of those things of, you've just thought of, man, that would make life so much easier.
Yeah, I mean, this might take a little bit to respond to in a articulated and smart fashion, so let's just make some jokes. I have had some very great invention ideas that all managed to transpire without me actually doing any of them, so I got no proceeds whatsoever. But here's a simple one. Okay, so I drive around a lot. My truck is basically my secondary office. I have it all suited so that if I need to do work out of there on a job site or in between appointments or whatever, I always can. Therefore, I eat a lot in my truck, and I always have a bag sitting in my back seat that I put all my trash in. I was like, wouldn't that be convenient if there was a trash can in the truck that wasn't a trash bag from Safeway or King Soopers, right? And then about 3 weeks after I had this idea, my wife orders a trash can that you strap to the back of your seat, and it blends right into your truck. It looks like it's supposed to be there. And I was like, well, I'm at least a year late, but this sucks because this guy's making buku bucks off of this little chump-ass trash can that's Velcroed on the back of my seat. So, that's cool. But, there's some more. Why don't they put, you got peanut butter jars, right? But you're always digging around on the bottom. You can't get everything out. Why don't they just put a lid on the bottom, too?
That doesn't make sense.
So when you're done on the top and you can't reach the bottom, you can put the cap back on, flip it over, open it up, and you got a whole new angle. New angle for the dangle, my friend.
Just cut the top off.
Why would you do that?
I'm just kidding.
No, these are all really dumb ideas. But I guess if we really wanted to go and reinvent the wheel and business ideas that we wish existed, I still really can't put together a good response for that. What about you?
So I have a lot of those where you wake up in the middle of the night and write down an idea, and then you look at it the next morning and you're like, what? Yeah. So I've had a bunch of those over the years, and this may exist, it may not, I don't know. But the one thing that I think about all the time of would be really nice if it existed was more approachable If it, I know that a solution exists. It's just a very, very expensive solution. But I wish in like the U.S. of like big ideas, they have these in Europe. Is why I say I wish that they had them here. Of like you can go and you rent a car bay. And
Dude, I was literally going to say the same thing.
it has a lift. It's a business idea I've had for a really long time. I've really wanted to do it for myself. It's just
When did you get this business idea, JD?
because
No, when?
when
Yeah. I want to know how in sync we are.
Um,
And it does exist in America, which is why I'm
Does it?
irritated about it. Yeah. So you can do that on military bases.
Oh, really?
And
I didn't know that.
And there was a couple of soldiers who essentially brought the idea with them, and they now definitely have that open. It's California dominant right now. But
Okay.
yeah, I have 100 friends that are, gearheads, but they don't have a place. They don't have a lift. They don't have all the tools. So if you provided them that and they checked them out, you can make a pretty good rental living, right?
Yeah, I've just always I drive a Jeep and I like working on my Jeep, but I hate paying for people to work on a Jeep because if it has the word Jeep in it, just take your price tag and add a fucking extra $500 to it, and you'll know what it is to buy Jeep parts. Which is anything with same thing with the word overlanding or anything like that. Of like you just slap that on the front of it, and now the price is double.
It's Gucci, right?
Exactly. And so I've always worked on all of my own vehicles. My first vehicle was an 86 Volkswagen. I did everything on that. I mean, I literally bought it out of a junkyard and cleaned it up. And so I always like working on those things, but there's nothing worse than being a big dude and trying to fit under a car in your driveway. And that probably goes for anyone trying to get under their car in a driveway, but it's especially hard when you're a big dude trying to get under a car in a driveway. You're just like, I hate everyone right now. And someone always comes and asks a stupid question when they're walking by on the sidewalk. Having fun? Does it look like I'm having fun? But that's something that I always thought would be a really cool like business idea of. I didn't realize that was a thing you could do on military bases if you're a service member, but having that available to like the general public of like you would make a killing of like having a place where you have 2 or 3 bays where you can just rent out a bay hourly that has a full complement of tools and come in and do the thing. And
Well, and I thought into this idea. Maybe we've talked about this in the past. I don't know. But I actually floated this idea to my old boss when I worked in the gyms. I thought it was the smartest thing ever. But anyways, you could add on to that too, right? So you could have like a parts department that's attached to the store. So these guys don't have to drive to O'Reilly every time they realize they don't have what they need. So then it's kind of like the cereal box concept. It's like the kids want the toy, but we want to sell our cereal. So let's give away the toy, jack up the price of the cereal.
I mean, it'd be nice because like I can't tell you the number of times I've been like deep in the middle of a project and then been like, crap. Why do I not have that?
Yeah. It's usually something small.
Something small, or it's a tool.
Yeah.
Of like, there's some tools of like, what did I need? I needed you've seen it on Instagram. They make videos about it all the time. It's a bearing puller. There's no reason for me to have a bearing puller in my tools. There's just not. It's a box about this big and I'll use it 3 or 4 times in my life if I were to buy it. And it's just one of those things like, yeah, I could go get it from Harbor Freight. But even that, it was like, when I was doing a lot of this, it was like, that's another $200 on this, what was supposed to be a $56 project to get me back on the road. And I could barely afford the $56.
Yeah, right.
So you're just like, so like having those tools for checkout and things like that. But like you said, because that was always the part that I had of like, because of the overhead and things, how do you make it approachable and affordable? Where, because that's the scary part of like, how do you make money doing this? Because there's going to be a lot of overhead to put like a mechanic shop together with a full set of tools, because you at least have to have a full set of sockets and wrenches.
Yeah, you got a lot of it. You got to have a lot of investment capital, but
Yeah.
your biggest overhead expense is going to be insurance.
Yeah, the insurance is going to be crazy.
Sky high. Yeah.
Because you're going to have a fully certified mechanic, and they're still gonna have to file what like waivers thing. Anyway, we don't need to go into the whole business plan, but that was like one of the biggest things I've always thought of, like, man, this would be really nice. Or like, because the number of times I've like wanted to fix something on like a suspension, it's so hard to do in a driveway.
Mm-hmm.
You're just like, I need to change out one shock, or like I need to change out my shocks. And I've done it, and it's awful every time. But
Yeah.
if I had a lift,
You spend a little bit to get the lift in the area, and then you go and you turn your 5-hour project into a 1-hour project, buy back your time. Pretty
Yeah.
good, pretty smart. Yeah. So I think that's a great idea. But what have you got any other cool ideas?
Well, I think it kind of is an overarching similar topic to it all. It's kind of like a barrier to entry type of issue.
Yep.
Really, so like an example of like film. You know how impossible it was for me to find big film cameras so I could get used to them, learn how to use them well. That's a $6,000 camera that we're shooting on Mr. Christian over there, and then a $4,000 camera over there. Like really, like you have to find those things with somebody else, or you have to just commit and buy it. You know, I was terrified to buy the $6,000 camera because this one's a whole new get-up, a whole new thing. I had no idea what I was getting into. It took me months.
Mm-hmm.
I buy it though.
Well, if we're going to talk about barrier entry type of thing, there's a lot of people who've done well in life, and they've accumulated some form of wealth, right? But the only options that you really have if you're trying to open a business or run a business is you bootstrap it like we did, right? Or you go to the bank and you get told, I'm only able to give you this much or whatever, and then you're confined to that incredible interest rate, the terms, the conditions, and blah 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 blah. What if there were, instead of maybe let's just eliminate the banking institutions from a startup conversation and have networks of people who want to angel invest into ideas. All you got to do is
like
essentially
crowdfund them.
Yeah, like crowdfunding, but it's these people are here to buy into good ideas and for whatever the return is that's guaranteed on this, and blah, 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 right? Like, why have to have a banking institution who runs the world anyways involved with what you're doing? I think that's a pretty good...
Kind of like Shark Tank.
Kind of like Shark... Well, yeah, but I'm talking about angel investors. I'm not talking about a group of
Where
billionaires.
they're trying to buy a portion of it. They're just investing in it and then getting their investment back out.
I think that's what Patreon is. Everyone's like creating this long form content like we're doing, but what they're doing is they're breaking out really valuable pieces of that content and selling it separately on their Patreon.
That allows...
Well, Patreon is just is so that you can have a funding for your individual channel.
Oh, no, I was thinking GoFundMe. That's what I was thinking of. Not GoFundMe, but like...
Okay, but yeah, sure, GoFundMe, but that's generally sparked by some kind of traumatic experience or some kind of like
But you can do it for
specific
business,
need.
though.
Yeah, you're thinking Kickstarter.
Yeah.
Kickstarter, that's
Sure,
my bad.
sure, but like if you run a GoFundMe, then you're isolated to the people that are within your network. I'm talking about like angel investment groups where people are like, I've got excess capital, run a, these are the things I'm interested in, these are my passions, and these are the types of people I'd like to invest in. And you plug it in your information, and it just categorizes like this is a great connection for you for funding. Let's talk about it.
Oh, interesting. Because I was thinking even more narrow. So you're thinking about it wider, because I was thinking another way that would be super approachable is kind of like what you're talking about, of like a group of very successful business owners in their state pouring back into their local economy by creating these investment groups of like, hey, we're going to help great ideas and help people with mentorship and those type of things through it, of like to the, for the people that have it, but like they're, these investing groups pouring back into their communities.
I like that idea too, but I would just, like we live in 21st century, and everything has, you have immediate access to a lot of things from your supercomputer in your pocket. So if there's there's a website where it's just angelinvestors.com, whatever you want to call it, and all these people who are like, I want to invest my money into somebody who's,
In an up and coming business.
an up and coming business, right? And somehow you run algorithms and whatever, and it connects you with people, and it's an easy funding source, right? And you can negotiate the terms of what the loan is. It's like, do you want some points from this business, or do you want it to be something where you gain back 15% off your investment in a time period, and that's how you move forward, right? But it's You know, it's a non-corporatized, non-monopolized way for funding is all I'm saying. Like the entry barrier is really difficult for a lot of people. Like they try to make it sound like it's super easy to get business loans. I can tell you for certain it's not super easy to get a business loan. I was walked out of every bank door when we tried to start this business because nobody wants to invest into construction. They specifically don't want to invest into restoration construction because of the attrition rates. So like, don't tell me it's easy to get funding. It wasn't. I had to make the money. I had to do it slow, blah, 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 right? But banks have these requirements, whereas, you know, you take the corporation and the bureaucracy out of it and you actually present your information to somebody who really wants to help, and that's specifically what they want to spend that money on. Makes a lot of sense, right?
When you were asking if I had any other idea, and this kind of falls back into that barrier of entry thing of when I was, this has changed over the course. Originally, it was a business idea for me, but it has now changed to more of like a nonprofit filling for me. Of music has played a huge role in my life. So I am a huge music person. I mean, I have a degree in audio engineering, and one of the things that always made me crazy is the only way that you can really get behind audio gear in any situation is try to get on a gig, get on it like a venue. But the odds of you getting on any of the equipment there are low if you're just coming in as a new guy. Yeah, you can roll some chords, help set up some stages, move equipment around. But like, as a guy who's done a lot of that, that's not the fun stuff. And everyone wants to get behind and touch the consoles, like, and those kind of things. But also for musicians and bands, it's harder and harder, especially with, you know, cost of living and things like that, to find places where you can play music, where you can practice, you can be a band of like, I'm not even talking about somewhere for people to play shows, although that would be a way that you could help with community outreach with it. But it always killed me that there wasn't spaces like that available after you left high school. Of like, and then sometimes colleges, if they're a music college, have practice rooms. But that's not available to people that don't go to the school.
You know, it isn't. It is technically there. This idea does exist because I know somebody that does this in Greeley, actually.
Oh,
but it's not. It's not something that's. It's very much like that's the only time I've ever heard of it. But this guy has a huge warehouse in the industrial area of Greeley, and he just rents spaces to people. They leave their equipment set up in there. You know, if they don't have enough space, or maybe they live in an apartment and they can't bang the drums next to their, you know, neighbors all day long, but they want to do that and they want to practice. It's a really cheap, small, confined, you know, small space. It's based off of square footage, so it's not like it's going to be an incredible rental expense. And you just leave your things there. You go practice. You go do what you want to do.
Oh, really that's cool. Awesome. I didn't know about. Is that part of what you? They were trying to make like the art complex. Is that part of that?
I don't know.
The art. There's a group.
There's multiple dance companies that actually rent spaces out of there and do dance classes and stuff like that. So it doesn't have to necessarily just be, but correct. Renting space, right? People, that's a very useful thing. But they're like, you know, we've boxed in that idea to like you can rent an apartment or you can rent a storage unit, but outside of those two things, you can't rent space to do activities or do this or that. I think that's really great, to be honest.
And making those spaces affordable for those people of like that's why the like nonprofit part of the thing has turned over in my brain of like, if I don't have to worry about it making money, but allowing, I think that the arts are an incredibly underutilized things in most schools in the U.S. right now. And creating a space of like you said, for dance academies or dance schools or teachers that want to teach one-on-one with a few students. And, you know, you can expand this into anything, but those spaces that are hard to find and are expensive to rent and making it more approachable and affordable in a decent building that people feel safe going to, and allows, you know, how hard is it to throw up? But this is where like code and ordinance and so many cities make things like this hard of like, because my idea would be to have 4 or 5 large practice rooms so that you could put a full band in it along with some smaller ones, but so that you could have 4 or 5 people practicing at once and it not be a huge deal because there wouldn't be all the noise of like Because the last thing a dance instructor is going to want to do is be teaching alongside some guy just having a rage out on the drums.
Animal. Drums.
Exactly.
Drums. Yeah.
Yeah.
Best
I love
Muppet
that type
ever.
of. I have to say I love all the memes of. Oh, he's a huge meme right now. He's got all the crazy hair. He's one of the Muppets.
Yeah.
And he's really thin.
Why can't I think of his name? Me, that guy.
Not Muppet. Not him.
Beaker.
Yeah, Beaker. Not Beaker.
Yeah.
I think it's shrimp. He's like fry the that's gonna bug me. We'll pull it up. Anyway, but those are two things that I've always like, that mechanic shop, and then also like
a co-op.
I guess
like
that's
a
the best
co-op.
way to say it. A very approachable co-op
Yeah.
of, where people are focused on having a place to be able to do art.
Yeah, or I mean, it doesn't have to be just the arts. I mean, that idea is really valuable. I mean, how often are people, exposed to, research equipment? You have to get into a research program to be able to use a microscope. You know what I mean? They could be anything, right? There could be spaces for people to be able to go in and actually.
Well, and every industry has something like this.
Yeah.
Every industry has, a desire of like where people want to.
I mean,
Young people should be exposed to, or young people, old people should be exposed to things that they want to try.
That's exactly what. Yeah, I mean, that's the biggest issue of like guidance counselors in high schools and stuff. It's like for guidance counselors in high schools, is like people don't know what the hell they want when they're 16 years old. They want to try some things out.
I didn't know what I wanted when I graduated high school.
Yeah, I had no idea. I literally got a degree in, or 2 degrees. One's in cell biology and the other's in biopsychology, just because I liked taking those particular classes, but I had no idea what I wanted to do with any of that. Even after college, I was like, I still don't think I want to be a doctor, So, I probably could have avoided 5 years of college and all the debt associated with it if I had some time doing X or getting to be involved with this, right? That's, yeah.
Well, and this is kind of an interesting, nice segue of, it wasn't on our list, but jobs that I wish I would, it's kind of like apprenticeships. I wish that we could see apprenticeships, but not the way that we see interns and apprentices treated now. Maybe not apprentices, but interns and things like that. Internships should be very approachable, in my opinion. This is another like barrier to entry of like, we only want to take people who've already graduated college and spent $75,000 or more or a year. So they've gone for 4 years and now they're walking into like, this probably isn't the best example, but like you're walking in to be a paralegal and you're just like, eyes are this big. Like, what did I hate this.
Yeah, imagine spending all of that time and money and finding out you hate what you got programmed to do.
Well, I think that there's a lot of that. I think there's a lot of people that get degrees. Well, we can see it based on how many people who don't work in the field their degrees come from. How many people have gotten a degree, gone and done it, and been like, wow, this is not what I was told it would be.
Yeah. Yep. Well, I'm one of them. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I guess I can't say that I'm one of them for that reason, but I definitely, healthcare was where I wanted to place my focus until I had spent some time with the wrong doctors, and turns out it just wasn't where I wanted to be, and so I got involved in other things, right? I got a degree in cell biology and another in biopsychology, and now I build roofs for a living, What do you know? Life is crazy. So.
I mean, I'm an audio engineer that hates math, and I work in the accounting department.
Yeah.
And I love it, by the way.
Yeah.
Of like, that would have, if you would have told me that 10 years ago, I would have been like, you're an idiot. There's no way
Get
in
wrecked,
hell
nerd.
I'll sit behind a computer and be thinking about going and getting, becoming a certified bookkeeper.
Yeah.
Of like, there's no way. But turns out, I actually kind of dig this.
Yeah.
And it scratches the right parts of your brain.
Yeah.
And it's...
I thought you're going somewhere else with that.
Funniest, I know it's moving on to the next topic here in a second, but the funniest thing, when you said get wrecked, nerd, I just saw you say that, and I was just like, Shut up, Gabe. Shut up, Walter. Fuck you. I've been hanging around you too much now. I know your family. You know? This is weird. Like, I wanted to tell your son to be quiet.
Dude, he's a savage. He could talk so much smack. And he uses the words correctly. He's 6 and he can talk smack better than like.
I was amazed at the Thanksgiving party. This kid was demolishing people. I'm just like, bro, what you doing?
Yeah. Well.
So I'm going to move
We
to the
didn't
next.
raise no punk.
You didn't raise a punk. You know what? You definitely didn't. 100%. So before I transition to the next topic, we're going to take a minute, guys, here to cut to a quick break from our sponsors. We want to thank Pride Roofing and Construction for being a supporter of this podcast for as long as it's existed. So we're going to take a moment to share a little bit about them. And we also want to take this time to thank Level Creative Studios for their involvement with this podcast. So, all right, we're going to move into the next one. And I think the next one is pretty great because I've had some great places where this has happened. So, extreme networking.
Ooh. Okay.
So let's talk about the weirdest places that you've either made a business deal or like gotten a lead of like just completely out of left field, and you're like, oh, okay, yeah, sure.
Well, let's hear what you have to say. I gotta think on that for a minute. Yeah.
So we purchased a bunch of vehicles here a while back, and the gentleman that delivered one of the vehicles was talking with me quite a bit, and he took my cart. And so into the cell, we're getting the trucks, and then he called me and was like, hey, I have this project. I was wondering if you guys would come out and take a look. And it was small, so I ran out and took a look for him. It was just a gutter project, and had a really great conversation. It didn't end up, this particular one didn't end up going anywhere. But we had a really great conversation, and because I went there with my uniform on, we've had call-ins from like people at that particular golf club.
Okay.
Of like, so that one was really interesting. Of like, we purchased vehicles, wasn't even thinking about anything like that, and we went out to do gutters on a building. But anyway, it doesn't matter why it didn't work out. But like that one was really interesting. And then the other one that I had that made me laugh is, so I used to do lots of like volunteer sound. And I was in like this dance program that used to be in Greeley of, company. We would do this big show every year. And I was involved in that, but I also helped with the audio part of it. Yeah. And because of that, I actually got the opportunity to join the sound team for a different venue, full time. Of like, I got to be involved as much as I wanted with this other particular venue because of this particular, like, I know that's not necessarily a business deal, but like that is what spawned my love of audio, of like that networking. And then I have sold tools specifically. I was wearing, I don't even remember where I was, I remember where I was, but I don't remember how the conversation came up. I was just talking with a guy, and dude I've known for a really long time. And he's like, oh, you're doing that now? And I was like, yeah. He goes, well, I need 4 trucks set up with tools. So can I come see you? I was like, yeah, of course. And I wish I would have made commission because I ended up selling him like over $7,000 worth of tools.
Nice. Nice.
And it was just like in my daily life of like a guy that was a friend of my dad's that I had known, and then just happened to run into him. And in the course of conversation was like, oh, actually, you can help me out with that. Yeah. And I trust you. So
yeah, it's really amazing how many doors are all open at all times of all days. Most people aren't looking for them, right? I mean, that's kind of like the law of attraction. That's the premise of the laws of attraction is like, you're only going to notice the doors that are open, that the universe opens for you when you're focused on it. but they're there. And we talk about that with the sales team all the time. It's like, I talk about business to business with the sales team all the time. I'm like, look, you're going in with the intention of trying to find the owner to see if you could do some work on this building. But how many people are inside of this building right now? And guess what? They're working there. They're not homeless. They have a roof over top of their head too. We should probably connect with as many people as we can. There's a lot of opportunity, but I got a story that's not mine that I think is pretty useful one, or a really cool one, and I've got a couple that are my own. But I have a family friend in Iowa, right?
Okay.
He owns a plumbing company, but happens to be one of the most dominant plumbing companies in all of Iowa, right? And long story short, he was struggling one-man show for a long time, and dude's in a bathroom stall. Sitting at the bathroom stall. And there's another gentleman sitting in the bathroom stall right next to him. And the guy next to him goes, "Oh, shit." And he's like, "What, man? You all right?" He's like, "I'm out of TP." He loans him some TP, right? They have a conversation afterwards. Turns out that this is the superintendent for the school district. And he opened the door for him to have a exclusive rights contract with the entire district for all of the plumbing problems within this entire area in Iowa and stuff like that. And that's what built his entire business, was this interaction at a toilet. So
you never know where it's going to come from.
yeah, it's crazy. But personal ones, I just had a really great one, and then we're talking about the shit tickets, and I forgot about it. I can identify one of our guys on the team, Crew Porter. If anybody guys know who he is, he's a Greek god, legitimately just huge, muscular, the guy that every man wants to be like eventually, right? But anyways, he sold multiple deals to people while sitting in saunas at gyms. Which is pretty interesting.
Really?
Sitting
I didn't know that.
Sitting in saunas, sweating, having a random discussion with a stranger, finding out he's in roofing. It turns out they need a roof, and here you go.
That's pretty rad.
Yeah, there's nothing more vulnerable than being naked next to another man and talking about business, I guess.
Shirtless on a roof of a boat in the middle of a big-ass lake in Cambodia?
Shirtless on a roof on a boat
Yes.
in Cambodia.
The roof is not the point, but it's a big boat, two-story.
What about it, though?
But I made, business deals. My weird location.
We were both so lost there. That's
So lost.
So lost. You got to cut to our face. I bet there's great clips in there of us just like,
What?
Dirt.
say what?
Yeah. Man, why can't I think of my best ones? I mean, there's a lot of random occurrences, right? You meet somebody at a nephew's birthday party, and it turns out that they need exactly what you do. I'm a really, I talk on here a lot, and I talk in the office a lot, but I'm a pretty to myself type of person. So if in a social, setting, I'm usually pretty uncomfortable and wanting to leave the whole time. So this person had to definitely come up to me and engage the conversation, because it wasn't me being Captain Charisma. But I have had multiple times, including my nephew's birthday party, where I met somebody and ended up selling him a pretty significant sum in roofing, just because we were at the same place, and it turns out we trusted each other's connections while we were there, right? It's like you have a red carpet rolled out for you because you met in a scenario where you're not aggressively pitching your idea. That's pretty cool. So
I think that there's been a lot of moments for our team that way of I can tell you when we did the Greeley Chamber of Commerce, I was totally blown away when we walked in and the number of people that knew who I was. I didn't even realize some of these people were business owners.
mm-hmm.
And then we're just doing the Greeley Chamber, and I'm talking, they're "Hey, JD," and I was just oh wow, I didn't even realize you owned a business in Greeley.
Well, they said that it's changed because population has grown, but there's seven layers of separation between all people on the face of the planet, right? So eventually everybody knows everybody, right? Layers. Ogres have layers. Insert Shrek now. Yeah. You're a monster. Anyways, we'll get back to the topic. But yeah, no, extreme networking. I think that's Well, I mean, salesmen understand this concept. Not everybody understands this concept, but salesmen definitely understand this concept, which is why so many people work to perfect their snapshot sale and their elevator pitch. It's like if you were by happenstance trapped in an elevator for a couple of floors with somebody who happens to be a gatekeeper or a decision maker for a business that you'd love to partner with in some way, what's your pitch? How are you going to leave a long-lasting impression, right? Like you have to be on your toes and ready at all times, right? So networking is a thing. You don't know who's connected to who. You don't know if you're already connected to a powerful source, so you might as well start asking some questions.
And if you've built, this is another thing we can talk about of like your reputation in your business and who you are and the way you represent yourself. If you've established yourself as someone of worth, those come easier.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really easy to, you know, have those conversations when you're around people that are already, like you said, you're at a, you're at a birthday party and someone's talking with you and they're just like, oh, because you're friends with this person, I'm comfortable working with you.
Right.
And remembering how powerful that is. That's, I did a lot of audio for like weddings, and that's typically how I got those particular gigs, is because I always came cleaned up. I always interacted and behaved professionally. And, most people that work in church audio that are doing those audio things, they're young and immature and things like that. So there was lots of ways to get those things if you carry yourself the right way and do those things. And just, you never know who you know.
Be the same person behind closed doors as you're in front of them, and make sure that's a good person. Things will work out. Thank you all for tuning in to this episode of Into the Lion's Den. We appreciate your time, and we hope that you've gathered enough ammunition to go out, fight the good fight, and become a better person every single day. Please like and subscribe, engage in our content, ask us some questions. We'd love to tailor fit the next episode to you.